All right, so today I have a special treat for you. I'm going to be interviewing one of my customers who's building here in Riverton Pointe, and we're going to be talking about some really interesting things. We're going to be talking about gardening and planting here in the South Carolina Lowcountry because she's been doing her research, getting ready for her move. So she's going to tell you everything she's learned so far about planting and gardening here in this location, and she's going to share a little bit about her experience relocating to the South Carolina Lowcountry. So don't go anywhere. We're getting started right now. All right, so today I have a special treat for you. I'm here with my friend and my customer, Kathy. And Kathy's actually going through the new construction process out here at Riverton Pointe. And she's relocating. Where are you relocating from?
Winston Salem, North Carolina.
All right, so we've got a couple things to talk about today. Number one, she has a passion for gardening and planting, and she's got a green thumb unlike me. So she's been doing some research relocating here and reading some books, and she's going to tell us what she's learned so far about planting and gardening here in the Lowcountry. And I think that'll be really helpful to some of you guys moving from wherever it is, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
I've lived in all those places.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge that you've been acquiring. And so let's just start off. So you're moving from? What are some of the differences from where you're moving from and where you're coming to when it comes to planting?
I am moving from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, so I'm still gardening in the Carolinas, but I am moving from a Zone 8, which is a harsher, not a harsh winter, it's a harsh winter. Like only a couple of my dahlias came up again this year, whereas down here, I expect all of my dahlias to come up every year. I can just leave them in the ground and they'll just shoot right up. I am coming from a condominium and I'm moving into a house. My condominium has a small patio. If it is 16 feet by 12 feet, I think I might be overestimating. However, I have a perfect patio for gardening. I have a crepe myrtle tree, which is a tree of the South. They are very, very popular down here. I will not be planting one because they root by suckers. And I'll tell you what, I'm out there all the time pulling up those darn suckers. If you plant it out in your yard, you can mow over those suckers and you'll be fine. But it's on the side of my patio, so it gives me shade, and there's nothing better than sitting out under the shade of a tree. I have part of my patio which gets more than 8 hours of light all day long. So it gets full light and it grows all of those really, really nice flowers. Zinnias, gerbera daisies. Gerbera daisies, we're down here in Zone 9 now, are going to also be perennials down here. It grows petunias, and everybody grows wave petunias. Now, when I lived up north, I used to be disappointed that spring didn't show up in April. Well, guess what? I'm moving down here and spring's going to show up in March. Woohoo! I grow basil. When I move down here, I expect to be able to grow basil year-round. I may have to put it in a pot and bring it inside of my screened-in patio during the coldest months of the year, but I expect I should be able to grow basil all year long, which is really important to my Italian heart. It really is.
So I have a question. How did you get interested in this, and how have you kind of developed your learning over time?
I'm lazy. I'm lazy and I love flowers.
Okay.
My nephew's sitting there in the background. I absolutely love flowers. I always have fresh flowers in my house. I buy those little $5 bunches at the grocery store, so they're always on my kitchen counter. I work really hard. I can afford $5 a week for a bunch of grocery store flowers. But I like sitting outside and I like seeing the fruits of my labor. I like seeing all those bright colors. I like seeing the butterflies and the bees And not so much the wasps, but the wasps are okay too, and not the ants, but if you spray a little mint around, the ants don't like mint, and that is a nice organic response to an ant infestation, which I have right now. The one thing that I will be disappointed about moving down here is that I will not be able to grow peonies, and I won't be able to grow lilacs. Now, I can't grow lilacs in Winston-Salem, but my grandmother had lilacs, and when I'd stay with her, she'd clip those lilacs and put them in the bedroom. Oh, the house smelled fabulous. But here's the trade-off. Down here, you get to grow gardenias.
Very nice.
And although you can grow gardenias in California, you can grow them down here as well. California is a little bit more arid, so if you're moving from California, water's not going to be as much of an issue here in the Carolinas. So I'm a lazy gardener. I don't want to have to work for it. My current garden is on my patio. It's got 44 flower pots on it. I don't know if I already said that. I can sit at the table and I can dump dirt into those pots and I can just plant everything. It looks fabulous.
So you don't have to have a big backyard, and you don't have to have a garden to be a gardener.
No, you don't have to have a big backyard to be a gardener. All you need is sunlight and water. And even if you don't have sunlight, you can grow things that like the shade, like one of my part of my patio, as I said, I have that crepe myrtle tree. Part of my patio is shaded. So every year, the first year I was in Winston-Salem, I got a wishbone flower. It blooms all summer. It blooms all summer, and it grows in the shade, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
So one of the things you wrote down, and so it prompted me here to think about, you're building a new construction home, and in this neighborhood, or any neighborhood for that matter, you talked about which lot you choose really has a lot to do with your potential gardening opportunities. And I've been selling for 10 years here. I've never thought about that. So that was a really unique perspective. So thank you for sharing that. But for the folks that are watching here, if they are choosing a golf course lot or a lagoon lot or a wooded lot, why does that matter?
Well, if you're on a golf course lot, you're going to have a homeowners association who is going to be carefully watching everything you do in your backyard. Everything. So you've got a little bit less leeway. If you choose a lagoon lot, you're going to be very visible to your neighbors. You'll have more leeway to do what you want than you would if you were on a golf course lot. Me, I'm backing up to the woods. It's a less expensive lot, although I can see a lagoon right over here to my side, but I'm in a wooded lot. And most of all, because I back up to the woods, I get a lot of privacy, and I'm going to have a lot more leeway to do what I want to do. Like, I want to put in raised beds.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't run that by the homeowners association yet.
I'm not going to tell anybody.
I tend to follow rules. I'll probably present them with a whole garden plan, and we'll see what flies. They're actually really pretty these days. I want to have a vegetable garden in my raised beds.
Okay.
I'm talking about flowers, but I had a vegetable garden once. I grew peas. The peas never made it from the garden into my house because I'd sit out in there in the garden, I'd crack those pea shells open, and I'd eat them as I was harvesting them.
Okay.
I want to have a compost pile. They're a lot cleaner than they used to be. They're not like your grandfather's big pile where you had to go out there with a pitchfork and turn it over and watch the steam rise. You can get little worm composting boxes that work really fast. I have an electric composter in my garage right now.
Okay. So
every day I take out a colander of food scraps and dump them into my grocery store flowers and dump them into my little small composter, and it turns out compost. Some better than others. Like, I don't do the whole cycle.
So you have a wooded lot. So there are some certain critters that live in the woods, and they like to eat some of the things that you like to plant. Deer, things like that, birds. What's your plan for dealing with deer and other animals or other pests?
read your homeowners association plan so you know what you're in for. I didn't read mine closely enough before I bought this lot. I would have bought it anyway. To be honest, I would have bought it anyway. They don't allow fences over 4 feet. No deer fencing. Deer fencing is ugly, so I probably wouldn't have had it anyway. But the thing about deer is they can jump high or they can jump wide, but they can't do both. So if I put in a fence, it will only be 4 feet tall. But if I put in a fence, it may keep things out like raccoons and possums and alligators and not squirrels and not chipmunks. Chipmunks are a pest down here. Cute as can be, but they are a pest, just like squirrels. And but if you plant 4 feet wide, so I'm planning on putting in a border all the way around my backyard. It's going to have trees in various spots, and it's going to have bushes like hydrangeas, which are a real southern staple, and they're just beautiful. To be honest, they're just beautiful. They flower all year. They look pretty. You can get ones that do better in light and ones that do better in the shade. Gardenias, I've already talked about gardenias. I love gardenias. I'm going to put in some heirloom roses because they are so pretty and they smell really good. And I think they'll be more disease and pest resistant. I don't know, I've never grown roses before. But my plan is to give it a try. Gardening is one of those things where you have to try. And then you have to try again, and you have to try again, and you have to figure out what works. And this is not, unless you grow in pots, it's not immediate satisfaction. And it took me several years to get 44 pots for my patio.
Well, it reminds me, there's a famous saying, I don't know who said it, and they said the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago, and the next best time is today. So it's one of those things, you got to get started at some point, and you got to learn, and you got to go through that process.
Yep. I'm going to plant a peach tree. That is one of my plans.
Okay.
Peaches are one of my favorites. I love peaches. And South Carolina is known for peaches. Squirrels love peaches. I've got a cousin who tells me the squirrels chew all of the peaches off of her tree while they're still green. You can get this thing, it's a sleeve, and you can put them over your peaches, and hopefully that will protect them. You can get netting, which will protect your vegetables and stuff from raccoons and other things that maybe the fence and the wide beds won't keep out. My cousin told me that the squirrels ate through the netting that she put over her peach tree. So,
all right. So, things to be aware of. There was a couple things you talked about, like you got to be really careful. Don't plant certain things too close to the house, or can you tell them a little bit more about things they do not need to do?
I've probably already mentioned crepe myrtles and their suckers. If you can mow over their suckers, you'll be fine. Don't plant a willow tree. I love willow trees. They're so pretty. I think that goes back to my childhood. They are so pretty. They tear up foundations. Birch trees do the same thing. Birch trees are a favorite in new construction sites because they grow really fast.
Okay.
But they also they crack foundations. And you also want to consider the messiness of a tree. Like I really wanted to plant a pecan tree. So I love pecans. Well, guess what? Pecans are really messy. And they chew up your lawnmowers. And yeah, I'm a lazy gardener. Honestly, I'm a lazy gardener.
We have a wild plum tree at my house, and about every year or every other year, it is loaded up with like thousands of plums, and we can't eat them all, and it just dumps them on the ground at a certain time, and we can't keep up with it, and next thing you know, you've got like rotting plums all over the ground under this plum tree. So, I mean, we love it. We eat, till we're almost sick in the stomach with plums, but we still can't keep up with all of them dropping on the ground all at one time, so.
You can take them to a food pantry.
Well, I would like to do that if I could keep up with them falling on the ground. We have a food pantry at our church, so that's a good idea.
Yeah. The other thing is to consider the height of your trees. Mm-hmm. When I drove in today, I saw a couple of pine trees that were cracked and fallen over. Must have had some high winds here recently. So consider the height of your trees and how close they are to your house. Like, I'm not going to plant anything that's going to grow over 20 feet tall.
Okay.
Only because I'm a lazy gardener. and I don't want things falling on my house.
All right, so what else do you want to tell everybody about gardening and planting before we move on?
Really quickly, if you can afford it, get an irrigation system put in. If you're moving into a home that's already been built, I love homes that have already been built. I've never lived in a new build before. You can go on Amazon, or you can go any place, I would guess, and you can get things that will run from hoses, and they're like sprinkler heads that just you can just push into the ground, and you can just turn on your hose and you can water your garden that way. A hose is effective. It's a little bit more work than just turning on an irrigation system. If you're going to go with pots, I've got neighbors who take out their little water jug and water each pot. Nah, I'm lazy. I have a hose.
Good deal. So they need water and they need sunlight.
Yep.
And they need patience.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on. Do you want to know everything there is to know about the South Carolina Lowcountry, whether it's Bluffton, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, or Jasper County? Then subscribe below and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about everything happening here. My name is David Simcox, host of this channel and a local real estate agent. I get calls and emails every day from people like you and you and you looking to make their move here, and I absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or book a Zoom call, all in the description below, so I can help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle. Let's get back to our interview right now. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what led you to considering relocating here to the South Carolina Lowcountry.
This was a surprise to me. I planned on staying where I am forever. It was going to be my forever home. Like, I did a ton of renovation on my house. I have a custom gourmet kitchen. I don't think my kitchen here is going to be as nice as my current kitchen. But, you know, I really like the weather here. I didn't want to live in Hilton Head. Hilton Head was just a little bit too suburban for me. Everything was a little bit too spread out. I loved Bluffton, Charleston, and I absolutely adore big cities. I moved to Winston Salem from the New York City area, and have lived in large cities many times in my life. Charleston was expensive, and it just didn't strike my fancy. Other people might find that different. Georgetown is a really pretty town, but there's a paper mill there.
Yep, and you can smell it.
Exactly, you can smell it. It is a really beautiful town. Bluffton just seemed to hit the right sweet spot with me, although I did look at Beaufort. Beaufort is really nice too, and Beaufort is just north of Paris Island, so I figured if Beaufort got hit with a hurricane, all those Marines on Paris Island would be there to put things in order, lickety-split.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did all of this before I decided to move here and where I was going to move. I considered storms, I considered rising sea levels, flooding. You can get all that information on various websites. NOAA has a new website where you can plug in the information about water levels over the next 6 years, 20 years, 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm in a really good location where I am. I looked at insurance rates. People are moving out of Florida, out of California, out of other places because they can no longer get homeowners insurance. I considered fire dangers. Again, California has a lot of fire dangers. I wouldn't have thought Hawaii had a lot of fire dangers until last year. It is not non-existent in the Carolinas, but it is less of a hazard right now. And the Carolinas are pretty wet.
Yeah. So you chose Riverton Pointe, which I've made quite a few videos about. What were some of the key features that you were looking for in both a neighborhood and in a house?
I wanted to be close to Bluffton. This is a little bit further away from Bluffton than I wanted to be, but this was the house that I wanted. I looked at other new neighborhoods in the area. This seemed like the best quality build that I saw. I really didn't like the vinyl siding.
Which is not here. We don't have vinyl siding in this neighborhood.
We have hardy plank.
Yeah, hardy plank.
Which is also really good for fire resistance, by the way, because it's the cement board. I like the hardy plank. It seemed like it was going to weather better. I liked the build here. I liked the 10-foot ceilings. I liked the super wide entry. I liked the choices that I got to make as I was going through the design center to build. David said, "Oh yeah, this shouldn't cost you too much money." Guess what?
Well,
I spent a lot at the design center, but that's me. That is.
In all fairness, you said, "I'm not going to spend a lot when I go to the design center," and then you called me later and you said, "Guess what? I kind of got a little out of hand at the design center." I said, "You know what? It's better to spend a little bit more and get exactly what you want than to spend a little less and wish you would have."
Yes. The thing that I wanted to spend my money on were the things that were going to be expensive for me to replace. Countertops, floors, windows, that kind of thing. I didn't get light fixtures put in, but they're running the electricity for light fixtures. I'm buying my own. I got the cheapest plumbing fixtures because
you can pick those yourself.
I can pick those myself, and I've got a wider variety for what I want. And considering that I'm going to have one great room, I don't want the center of attention to be my kitchen faucet.
Yeah.
So there are things that you'll want to spend your money on when you're at the design center, the things that are going to be really expensive to replace, and the things that you can go out this year, next year, and replace it, and you can slowly make the house exactly what you want over time.
Good. Last question from me. So a lot of people are probably where you were at, but 6 months or a year ago. So if they are thinking about this, or they're thinking about relocating to the South Carolina Lowcountry, I know you're still in the process, you still haven't completely moved here. We're actually in your house that is being built right now. But what advice would you have to people to plan and prepare and research and kind of go through that process? Is there any kind of advice that you'd have for them?
I am a researcher. I'm very well educated. I research things to death. My nephew's shaking his head at me. Yeah, she is. I am very near retirement. I am going to move here. I'm work at home, so I will still be working when I move here, but I will be retiring shortly thereafter. I looked at taxes. South Carolina, if you're over 65, the first $50,000 of your assessed property value is taken off of your assessed property value, and you're taxed on the remainder of that. David will tell you Jasper County taxes are higher than Beaufort County taxes. Taxes aren't inexpensive no matter what. They're going to seem inexpensive, especially if you're moving from New Jersey, but they are still expensive. I looked at health care facilities. I am coming from Winston Salem, where I have Wake Forest Baptist Health. It's associated with Wake Forest University, and I've always lived in places where I had access to really fine health care because I had very fine universities nearby. Not so much here. On the other hand, I am very close to Hilton Head, and I am going to be living in a very wealthy area with a lot of retired doctors. And those retired doctors are not going to settle for second best when it comes to medical care. So that wasn't as much of an influence, but it was something that I thought about. South Carolina does not tax Social Security benefits. South Carolina does not tax pensions. I'm not sure of the exact law on how they don't tax pensions, and I am not going to be your tax law expert, but it is something that I read and something that I know. My pension, I'm a retiring federal employee, should not, that income, that monthly income from my pension should not be taxed. My Social Security won't be taxed. So even though I'm paying a little bit higher in property taxes, I'll be okay. I don't know about personal property taxes. Those would be things like cars, but South Carolina doesn't require and doesn't require inspections, which is good and bad, depending on how you look at things.
Mm-hmm.
You can get behind a really smoky car and you can and you wonder how it's still on the road. I looked at weather, and really I just really love the beach, and I wanted to be close enough to the beach that I could visit the beach on a regular basis. Now, I went to Cologne Beach yesterday, if I said that right. It was beautiful. It was jam-packed. It was like going to Disneyland on July the 4th.
It is Memorial Day weekend, though, as we're filming this, so it is pretty crowded down there.
It was a beautiful beach, and it had beautiful facilities, and I wanted to see it, and it wasn't anything less than I expected. There are other beaches that are just as close that I expect will be more to my liking and a lot less busy. I am looking forward to going to Hunting Island State Park and seeing that. I think that is going to be my favorite beach.
Okay. So to come full circle, so we talked about gardening, we talked about plants, we talked about your process of moving here. And just to come full circle, if somebody's watching this and they want to get into gardening, what are the maybe 3 tips you'd have for them? Like 3 plants, or they're completely terrified of planting something, they think they're going to kill it, they've never done any kind of gardening. Give them maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things to get started that they can't fail at.
I buy soil that's in that yellow bag. I can never think of the darn name of the famous company that sells it, but it's got fertilizer in it, so you don't have to do anything. That's what I put in all of my pots.
Okay.
Start with pots. Go to a local nursery. I go to the big box stores. I like the big box stores. I prefer the local nurseries because I like supporting small businesses. Plus, the local nurseries really know a lot. The big box stores, you can't get the advice that you need. Go to a small nursery and they'll be able to tell you what will do well and what won't. And you have to be careful and watch out for non-invasive plants. And you can call up the extension office. I do not have a baggie. I'm looking off to my side. I don't have a baggie with me. I meant to bring a baggie. I
have one in my car.
I was gonna dig some dirt so I could take a dirt sample to send to the extension office, and they will tell me about my dirt, what the pH is, what the makeup is, and if you're a lazy gardener, plant perennials, plant carefully, hire a landscape designer. I will probably end up designing my own because I'm just that kind of person. And get raised beds. I'm going to get 36-inch high raised beds, so that I don't have to bend over. And if you make them 4 feet wide, you probably can't reach all the way across the 4 feet, so get the 3 feet wide ones.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on camera, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thank you for trusting me to be your real estate advisor. And I'm extremely excited for you to finish this house that we're in, and I know you're going to love it, and I can't wait to come back a year or 2 from now and see what this garden and all the planting in the back looks like.
I am so excited. I can't wait for the house to be finished and the move to be done, and for all my family to come and pester the heck out of me. And my nephew's over there raising his hands going, yay!
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
David's a joy to work with, by the way.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
All right, guys.
Enjoy your move.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed meeting Kathy. I hope you enjoyed learning about gardening here in the South Carolina Lowcountry and a little bit about the new construction process and the relocation process. Again, if I could help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or book a Zoom call, all in the description below. And if you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest happening here, be sure and like, subscribe, and tap that bell for notifications so you'll know every time I drop a new video. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today. I hope to meet you in person at some point, but if not, hopefully I'll at least see you on the next video.